Tyrese, he did like the Dame time at the in the game. Like, how does that make you feel seeing like someone do that?
You know, I didn't mind it. Was what it was. I've also known that, you know, when you having your moment, it's important to be careful and to be humble when you having your moments, because you just never know how the tables turn and when they're gonna turn.
What you just heard was Damian Lillard talking about Tyrese Haliburton after the semifinal game in the first ever NBA in-season tournament. And the reason why Lillard said what he said in that clip was because in that game, the Bucks had just been eliminated from the tournament by the Pacers, who were having a sort of Cinderella run behind an impressive effort by Tyrese Haliburton, who dropped 27 points and 15 assists to the Bucks in that game, hitting the dagger and making sure to rub it in their faces.
5-point lead. Haliburton tries another three. Bang! Tyrese Haliburton from downtown!
I know what time it is.
Tyrese hit that shot and followed it up with a Dame time celebration, and it was clear that he was kind of going at Dame and trying to make a statement in that game as the best point guard in the East. Just earlier in that contest, there was a stretch where Damian Lillard hit a deep three.
Damian Lillard knocking down another.
To which Haliburton responded with a deep three of his own on the other side.
Lillard started now. Haliburton comes right back with a long three-pointer.
Before saying, I can do that too. Haliburton was fired up, and rightly so, because his performance was a continuation of the scorching hot start to the season that he had, averaging 26 points and leading the league with 12 assists in his first 20 games on super efficient shooting splits. But what really highlighted his brilliance was how his play also translated to the newly introduced NBA Cup games, which were supposed to be a competitive stage with a playoff-like atmosphere. In those Cup games, he was also having an insane run, and he finished the tournament with averages of 27 points, an insane efficiency with 68% true shooting, and a nearly 7-to-1 assist turnover ratio. He was putting up video game numbers in almost every game that he played in that tournament, as he was powering through the Eastern Conference, beating the big dogs of the East like the Sixers, the Celtics, and finally the Bucks before advancing to the finals. We didn't know it at the time, but that matchup against the Bucks was one of the most significant games for Tyrese Haliburton's career because it played a huge role in the trajectory that his career took in the 12 months that followed. For one, that moment launched Haliburton into a different stratosphere within NBA discourse because he had essentially come out on top of the East, and with that run taking place on a competitive stage like the in-season tournament, which everybody had their eyes set on, it put the league on notice about Haliburton's game. And with him getting the victory over the Bucks and one of the top point guards in the East, there were many who were viewing him as arguably the best point guard in the league.
Shout out to LaMelo.
Tyrese.
Hey, I want to talk about it.
Haliburton, is he the best point guard in the NBA right now?
He's having the best season this year as a point guard for sure. I'm not going to say he's better than Steph. I'm not going to say he's better than Dame. But as far as who's having the best season so far at that PG position, Tyrese Haliburton is that.
And it wasn't just about the point guard spot because there were talks about Tyrese Haliburton being a Batman and a true number one option in the league. And because it just so happened that the Pacers were facing the Lakers in the final Cup game, Tyrese Haliburton found himself under an even bigger spotlight. Going into that game, he had the highest odds to win MVP right over LeBron, and ESPN was even debating about what a win against LeBron's Lakers could do for Haliburton's young career, and what looked like an emerging legacy of a superstar that we all thought was here to stay.
Yeah. And I don't ever like to over-dramatize or be, overreact to one game, but this isn't just one game. We're getting lucky to see this guy transform. This is usually something you don't see until the playoffs, where these young guys go from a star or an all-star to a superstar. Yeah. We're getting to see that early on in the season.
I think if he outplays LeBron and the Pacers win tomorrow, it certainly vaults him into the conversation of being a superstar in the NBA. And I would argue that he's probably already there.
All the hype that Haliburton saw was warranted. Well, most of it. Because he was playing at a level that no other player in the league was playing at. He was leading the league in assists, leading the league in offensive rating, and his efficiency was through the roof in multiple aspects of the game. Analytically, some of what he was doing had never been done before.
The most efficient player in isolation, drives, pick and roll, shooting off the dribble, it's Tyrese Haliburton.
How many guys in NBA history have that skill set? He is the best in the NBA right now at all of that.
But one thing that everyone seemed to overlook about Tyrese Haliburton's hot stretch was how quickly everyone was jumping to conclusions about him and the kind of player that he is. He definitely had a brilliant showing, but everything that I've talked about so far happened before the halfway mark of the regular season. And this is why what Damian Lillard said in the press conference holds so much weight in hindsight, because in his words, Lillard warned that the tables could turn for Haliburton.
You just never know how the tables turn and when they're gonna turn.
And boy oh boy, it's almost as if those tables turned right away, both on the court and off of it. On the court, things changed for Tyrese Haliburton very shortly after the in-season tournament, because in the 20 games that followed the finals, Haliburton's shooting numbers started dropping significantly, and the impact that he had early in the season also seemed to slow down at a noticeable rate. For example, before the All-Star break, Tyrese Haliburton had 7 30-point and 10 assist games, and in the second half of the season, he only had 1, and his averages were also down across the board. A reason that many pointed to for this was a hamstring injury that he suffered in January, which lingered all the way until the summer. And while that injury clearly impacted his production, as I'll talk about later on, the struggles that came from the injury marked the beginning of a slow decline in Haliburton's game that we're still seeing today. But because of the strong showing that he had in the beginning of the season, many believed that he was just going through a slump, which is why there was little hesitation to give him some major accolades, like making him an all-star starter and a spot on the Team USA Olympic team over players like Jalen Brunson, Kyrie, Donovan Mitchell, and other guards who were having very good seasons. However, as we now know, it wasn't really a slump because Tyrese Haliburton hasn't had the best season so far. In fact, he's having one of the most confusing seasons out of any NBA star in the league. On one hand, Haliburton has put on a decent showing in the home games that he's played for the Pacers this season, but his stats on the road have him looking more like a role player with a high usage rate than the Tyrese Haliburton that many remember from last season.
You know, you've now had a while to be working through this. I mean, do you have a better sense of what's holding you back?
No, I don't.
And the tables have turned so much for Haliburton that the very parts of his game that he became known for have now become some of the weakest points in his game. Like his efficiency, which he was praised for all of last season, has now become a struggle for him as he now ranks 27th among point guards in true shooting percentage and 115th in the league in his overall field goal percentage. This version of Tyrese Haliburton is very far from the one that lit the NBA on fire, and this major change in his on-court performance has also led to huge changes in his off-court perception.
That's the thing. His game, his resume backs it up. You know, he did win a gold medal. He is an NBA All-Star.
Twice.
He is a max player.
Yeah.
All these things warrant him being able to walk around with a certain aesthetic and aura. But then I watch him play in person. I see him airball 3 times, and I see him can't get his shot off because he doesn't have like a bag where he has like heavy pull-ups and stuff.
With the kind of pedestal that the media had Haliburton on last season, you would have thought that he would easily pass for one of the best young players in the NBA. And frankly, coming into this season, the only other player under the age of 25 with a resume that could rival his was Anthony Edwards. However, recently ESPN released a top 25 under 25 list, which had Haliburton at 6th. And the media's reaction to this ranking shows how much the tone has changed in regards to Haliburton and where he ranks among the NBA's best young stars. As you watch this, notice how everyone seemed to have a problem with the list as soon as Haliburton was mentioned.
At number 1, Victor Wembanyama.
That's a fact.
2, AE.
So we got Wemby holding down the top spot on the list, followed by Ant-Man at number 2, Paolo Banchero.
Okay.
3, Paolo Banchero. 4, Franz Wagner. Chet Holmgren at 5.
Chet Holmgren, 5th.
Tyrese Haliburton 6. Tyrese Maxey 7.
Throw the list away.
Yeah.
Evan Mobley 8.
Throw the list away. We'll go to the whole top 10. Tyrese Haliburton currently in the 6th spot.
He should be
Tyrese
last.
Maxey 7th.
Haliburton?
Not last, but he should not be 6.
Haliburton needs to be like 18.
Last season, he came in at 4th on this list, and it's not like anybody respects ESPN rankings anyway, but nobody seemed to have an issue with him at the 4th spot. But with how problematic this year's ranking turned out to be, you see just how much Haliburton has truly fallen off in the eyes of many. And this is another way that the tables have turned, because the same people who were singing his praises last season are the same people who are now letting us know that he's not a legit star. You just saw it from Austin Rivers, and recently, Jeff Teague, who I also showed early on in the video referring to Haliburton as the best point guard in the league, now claims that he can lock him down if he was given the defensive assignment.
He play a lot off pick and rolls and lobs, and what make him good is he a good team player. But one-on-one, that kind of shit. Hey,
Pop your shit.
All this slander largely stems from Haliburton's struggles this season, but it also has a lot to do with his success. Tyrese has one of the most stacked resumes in the league for a player his age, like I already talked about, and that puts him in an elite class of point guards in terms of accolades, and it also places him way ahead of many of his peers. What that implies, however, is that he's better than many of the young players that we see in the league today, which makes him look overrated especially when you look at some of the point guards that he's been compared to for much of his career. One of those point guards, for example, is De'Aaron Fox, who will always be compared to Tyrese Haliburton because the two were teammates in Sacramento. When the Kings decided that they were going to choose just one of the two guards, they went with Fox, and it caused a lot of debate among NBA fans about who the better guard was between the two. When Haliburton was having his hot start last year, many believed that Haliburton was turning out to be the better point guard.
Looking back on this though, the best guard in that backcourt between De'Aaron Fox and Tyrese Haliburton, in my opinion, is looking like Tyrese Haliburton.
But now, in the midst of Haliburton's struggles, which have come on the backside of some brilliant performances from Fox, the narrative seems to have changed once more.
Y'all know I'm a De'Aaron Fox fan, but he better than Tyrese Haliburton.
But this isn't just a Fox versus Haliburton debate, because we've seen these comparisons extend to LaMelo Ball and even Jalen Williams as well. When that ESPN list put Haliburton at 6th, they placed him 3 spots above Jalen Williams and 6 spots ahead of LaMelo. And even though Haliburton is more accomplished than these two players, people are still not ready to put him above them.
I would take LaMelo Ball over Tyrese Haliburton. If you put LaMelo Ball in the Pacers,
Give me Jalen Williams over Tyrese Haliburton.
On me. And Tyrese Maxey.
Yeah, and T-Max.
And LaMelo.
LaMelo 12.
Oh, no.
Yeah, this list, that list is crazy.
LaMelo.
Tyrese being
LaMelo number 4.
What justifies Tyrese Haliburton being in front of Jalen Williams?
What this reveals is another problem that people have with Haliburton, which is his individual game outside of an NBA system. Many feel like he has a limited ability to create off the dribble in the same way that most guards do, including Fox, LaMelo, and J-Dub. Haliburton's game has always been widely regarded as a little bit unconventional, and anyone who watches him can see that. From his shooting form to his handle, he has a game that's unorthodox and probably not as aesthetically pleasing, and that was actually a reason why some teams hesitated to pick him in the draft. But we saw it translate to the league both last year and the year before that. But now that it's not having the same impact, we're hearing more and more people voicing their opinions about it.
you get any other elite guard on an island with a big, he's going to size you up, hang dribble. Haliburton, like, crab dribbling around. He, like, goes side to side, doesn't have, like, handles like that, needs a pick, comes off, like, do a pump fake and up and under three. Like, it's like, what the hell is that?
Now, I can't finish this video off without attempting to answer the biggest question surrounding Haliburton, which is what happened to him and what changed. There's no doubt that the injuries have affected his game because Tyrese Haliburton's burst isn't the same as it was last year, and we can see this in the drastic change in his numbers when it comes to driving to the basket. In the first 25 games last season, Haliburton attempted 130 shots in the restricted area, but in the first 25 games that he's played this season, he only attempted 65. That shows a significant change in his drives to the basket, and that could be attributed to a lack of burst to blow by defenders like he used to. And with his injuries mainly being to the hamstring and the back, there's no doubt that his movement was also affected, so even the creation of separation off the dribble could have been negatively impacted. The bright side to this, however, is that he can return to his all-star form once he's back to full health. But one perspective about this situation that was a little bit different but could be true nonetheless is one that came from Kendrick Perkins, who suggested that Haliburton might have taken his foot off the gas following his massive success, and that what we're seeing today might just be a result of that.
And to me, I'm watching a guy like Tyrese Haliburton come into this season. I don't know if he necessarily been putting in the work that he needs to put in. I always look at these young, up-and-coming all-stars, superstars, franchise players, and I want to see how they perform after they get the bag.
There's also the idea that the league has figured him out, which would mean that his run was really more like a Jamal Murray bubble run that we saw in 2020, or another version of Linsanity that just lasted much longer. However, what this would mean is that Haliburton will never be at that level he once was at least not consistently. But that's it for the video. Let me know what you think about this whole situation in the comments, and if you're a Pacers fan, I'm sure you might have a better perspective on this, so definitely let us know in the comments section. If you've made it this far in the video, be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. But until next time, peace.